we as comedians, we can joke about absolutely everything. We hear somebody dies and then we're like, that was about enough of that guy.
So that's the last time I wrestled Chuck Liddell.
Stop the cap.
Under promise, over deliver.
Like we do here at S38 Fire Team.
S38 Fire Team, we are back. Let's get this, as they would say back in the day, let's get this show on the road.
For sure.
We are, I'm gonna combine two things here. We're going to do t-shirt check, and we're going to remind the good people of who we are. My name is Dre Zoom, and I am your humble host. And we are currently, if you were to rewind the clock back to 1941, 1942, the entire world was engulfed in war. And juxtapose that against Brooklyn, Adam, the Wolf, and myself, and we are at war with these t-shirts right now. Okay, this is literal Axis versus Allies here. I need help. Send reinforcements. Okay, send reinforcements. These guys are coming hot. They're coming heavy. Their wardrobe budget is much bigger than mine. But you know what? For the hometown heroes, this is odometer gears. Our good friend Jeff Kaplan, right? Am I saying that right? He has helped me fix my E28 M5 with my, he gave me a set of odometer gears, and he allowed me to watch him do another car. And I went home and did it myself, and that turned into another episode. But anyway, yeah, I'm here. Adam, let's see what you got.
Hello, this is Adam Armour. I am broadcasting from that armpit between California and Mexico, and your ultimate drive begins in Slick Top City. And today I am representing one of the most one of the most desirable sports cars of all time. Right? This is a Toyota Supra, and we'll be discussing it a little more later.
I like that. That's what you call the lead-in, right? That's you give them you dangle it. So, all right, cool. And Brooklyn, talk to us.
Brooklyn here, live from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. They call it locally the DMV. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to see you, gentlemen, as always. And happy to win this week's t-shirt championship. Can you guys not see?
No.
Oh, you cannot see the E34 M5 touring t-shirt.
All right. Yeah. I like that. Wait a second. Did Blip Shift just drop that?
Just drop it. I took it out of my mailbox while you were still at the airport, dog. This just got here.
Two things. One, do not put it in the dryer. Two, you must have a direct deposit allotment set up for Blip Shift, because I really feel like if I go to your closet, like on MTV Cribs, you're like, I got everything in here from Blip Shift, man.
Actually, I haven't bought a Blip Shift shirt in quite a while, but I saw this. T-shirt wars was heating up a little while back. I saw this, went below the hard deck, saw no danger, took the shot. And I knew it was something that you guys would not have, couldn't have, unless you also got it today. So, yeah, we all love the E34 M5 touring and M5s in general. And, yeah, my Blip Shift shirts don't shrink because I don't wash them in hot water and then put them in a dryer for an hour and a half. I'm a grown-up, and I wash them in cold with laundry detergent and really good fabric softener. And then I dry them. I hang them to dry like a giant man who doesn't want his clothes to shrink. Maybe you like wearing a belly shirt after you launder your clothes, but I prefer,
Well, if you thought you hung them shirts out to dry, wait till you see this episode. This is what we got coming up here. All right. Actually, let's put a pin in that. Let me back up to your shirt. Your shirt is actually very cool. If the people could just hop in the comments and tell us which shirt you think is the coolest. Adam's going to give some further insight into his. I've got one of our local hometown heroes shirt, and Brooklyn has the E34 M5 Touring. I like that blue. That's a good color there. But listen, real quick.
The name of this shirt is Practi-Cool. Like practical and cool. So it's funny that you called it cool. It's apropos.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's practically maybe second place. Okay. So here, this is what's going on. All right. This week, let us know whose shirt you like. Jeff Kaplan, odometer gears.
Odometer
gears. Long day. Listen, it's the jet lag is real. Adam's got a cool shirt with a Toyota Supra on it, and some really icons there, straight six icons. You know, with the M5 Touring on there. So good stuff. Well, you know, in that vein, this week we're gonna talk about, you know, do a little. This is the thing with S38 Fire Team. This is what we like to do, is we like to just dig up like things that only car guys would think about, right? One of the things that we really, you know, we like cars. We like to modify cars. We like to see modified cars. We like tuners. So what we want to do is talk about some tuners that you may or may not know about. And we're a global approach here. So we're going to talk about the best American tuner, or at least our favorite, our favorite Japanese tuner, and our favorite European tuner. So if it's a company or an individual that takes a car and does something to it, that's where we're going. Okay. And I think it's going to be a good cross section here so far from what I'm seeing. And I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I was able to dig up some ones and even learn some stuff when I was doing a little bit of research for this. Adam?
I think most people that own old cars do one of two things. They either leave it stock and, you know, just as the factory intended, or maybe a little bit OEM plus, as we like to refer to it, or we like to tune it a little bit. And luckily there's a little bit of an aftermarket to be able to pick from, and we can pick parts from that aftermarket. And usually, if our car is supported, we can add those parts to our car and make it, you know, a little more, you know, to our liking, or a little cooler than it would normally be.
Right on. Brooklyn, do you think that this was a little bit out of your wheelhouse, or you had this one nailed?
I'm Brooklyn Taylor, and nothing is outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but
I think I was very ready for this one. I have a favorite American tuner. I have a favorite Japanese tuner. I have a favorite German tuner, and I also have specific favorite cars in those. So that was the hard part, narrowing down which of the tuners cars. But yeah, great idea, gents.
All right. Well, listen, without further ado, I'm going to kick it off. You know, I'm going to kick it off here. I'm going to show you guys what I pulled up. So my first selection is this, right? Here's my first selection. Okay. The reason why I went with this selection is because if you really had to pin me down, and I'm probably giving away, you know, but pin me down and say, what's your favorite car of all time? This car would probably be in the top three. But Carroll Shelby started out as a race car driver, and everybody's seen the movie, so you know it. But, you know, I remember Carroll Shelby from when, you know, my biggest exposure to him was when he was working. Well, he worked with Dodge, because, you know, Lee Iacocca was a friend of his, and he, you know, worked with Dodge, and, you know, he was on the outs with Ford. So there's a period there where no Ford Mustangs had the name Shelby associated with it. You'd have to go back to the Mustang 2 was the last time that there was a Shelby Cobra Mustang, up until you got to I think the next Shelby, it was around the, I don't know, I want to call it maybe after the SN95s, where they went with, you know, that still the retro look, and then they had a Shelby, and I think it was the rental that you could, the Shelby Hertz. I think that's the first
Terminator
time.
Cobra wasn't a Shelby. It was an SVT Cobra.
That was a Cobra. It was an SVT Cobra. There was no Shelbys associated with Ford, because Shelby was suing Ford. Ford was suing. He was a Texan. You know what I mean? So, but going back to and again, not to really get too much into the movie Ford versus Ferrari, but I just love the Shelby Cobra because I remember reading an article in Car and Driver where they said the true definition of a sports car is that when the body is wrapped so tight around the mechanicals, that's where you get the shapes and the bulges. Like that's the true definition of a sports car. As being BMW guys, we know BMW has very much went against that, right? The E36 M3 was once viewed as one of the greatest handling cars of its era, and it did not look the part. Everybody remembers that ad from BMW. Right. The Shelby Cobra was not that. The Shelby Cobra was a British car that, and just, again, I kind of knew some of this, but I had to refresh my memory.
Austin Healey?
Yeah, not Austin Healey. It was Bristol Motor Cars that because he actually went to, because his idea was this, right? Big engine, small car, right? And that's a staple of tuning is big engine, small car. So he was like, I know that if I take a V8 and stuff it into a small British sports car, British sports cars were cool back then in the 60s, but they had these ghastly underpowered engines, right? And Carroll Shelby said, I know that I can take I think the first Cobras, the AC Cobras were 289s, if I'm not mistaken, and put it into a lightweight body, and he ended up making some of them aluminum, if I'm reading right. But he went to Europe or really England and said, hey, I want somebody I can license, I want to do a deal. I want your car. And a lot of the British manufacturers said, no, you could the Shelby Cobra that we know today could have been a damn Spitfire or MG. This is how Shelby, he went. This is from Wikipedia, obviously. But he went right here. He contacted several European manufacturers with the purpose of striking a deal to import their chassis and install an American V8. He was rebuffed until 61 when AC Cars of Britain replied with an affirmative. And then it's downhill from there. You can see what happened. But the actual car is this one right here. If you look up ACE, it's this car right here, right? So you see this car, and it looks like if you were to see this car, you would think that it's a Shelby, and it's not. This is an AC Ace is what the name of the car was. It's an AC Ace. So I am saying all of that to say this is the qualifier of a tuner. You're taking a factory car. Now, this is my American tuner, right? But the Shelby Cobras were produced in America, not in England. They brought the cars over. And I just thought that is just really cool that again, you have the forethought to take knowing that these cars are, the shape itself just lends to speed, handling, aerodynamics, even though it's a convertible, and I think it's really beautiful too. One of my favorite cars of all time. You could also, but by the time Shelby started to work with them, he realized that, the track needed to be widened. There are a few that have let's see if I can find it. Like this one right here is the real wide body one that has the big arch flares. That's just absolutely beautiful right there. Now this is a 427, not a 289. So that one's we ain't give that away. But Shelby Cobra or Shelby American, which it ended up being recognized as, is my first one, right? Brooklyn, I see you're chomping at the bit here. Do you like my selection here or no?
No, yeah, absolutely. I love the AC Cobras. They're British bodied, but nothing is more American than what Carroll Shelby did here. He took a sprightly, agile, lightweight British sports car, and he probably tripled or quadrupled the horsepower. And obviously in those days, with paper mache seat belts, if you had a seat belt at all, which probably not at all in the first ones, you could really kill yourself. There's nothing men enjoy more than ways in which they can practice suicide, bungee jumping, jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft, riding motorcycles. Someone passed me in a Hayabusa the other day, and I forgot how big those motorcycles were. They're huge and they're fast. So the Shelby Cobra, there was nothing cooler on the road at any price. There just wasn't anything cooler. They sound amazing. What is it? Flattery or replication. There are more kit Cobras than there ever were authentic Shelby Cobras, and that is a hat tip to what Carroll Shelby created with that automobile. And that's and he created many great cars, but the Shelby AC Cobra was it's a top car of all time. Great choice.
Yeah, appreciate. Adam, does this fit the bill, or was I thinking too much outside the box?
No, I think you tied it in very well. And my most vivid memory of that car is heading to Katie's Cars and Coffee in Northern Virginia with my kid and my oldest, who was less than 3 at the time. And we saw a couple of those parked up. They arrived at probably 4:30 the previous night in order to get a great parking spot. And we walked over, and little 3-year-old Blake pretty much had an eye level view of the shoulder of the car.
Right.
And what he picked out on that car was the snout. He picked out the snout, and he pointed to the car and he said, "This car is saying no."
Right. I remember that.
But that's one of my most vivid memories of this car, and just a great vehicle. Very well represented it in the movie, as you were talking about, and definitely a legend.
Yeah. And I've got a spotty internet connection here. The hotel, it's free internet, but it's 1 megabyte a second.
Free.
It says right here, you can see that this isn't as wide. The tires aren't as wide. I think this is the very first Cobra that he made out of the AC Ace. So
that's got to be worth $20 million.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. But you're talking about, and I want to say this is that's a 289. It kind of looks like a 289, but I don't want to misspeak. I'll have to look it up. But you're talking about. I think it would be really cool if you had an actual real AC Ace, which I think they had a straight 6, and then you had a very close, like one of the first AC Cobra Shelby Cobras that they made. That'd be really cool. So that's my American tuner. R.I.P. to the late Carroll Shelby. I have a model car with Carroll Shelby's signature on it. So I've got that tucked away. Yeah, it's a Ford Mustang 1/18 scale. Got it tucked away. I'll cash that in.
Where did you get that?
Fleabay. Yeah. eBay for those uninitiated. Yeah, I think I got it on eBay. Pretty sure I did. Yeah, many moons ago. Signed by Carroll Shelby.
Nice.
All right, so moving on to Europe, and and I think that this one is a pretty easy one for me, because I've always been amazed by the AMG Mercedes-Benz dichotomy, if you will. How they, you talk about, so AMG, this is going to go strictly off the dome here. It was 3 gentlemen, or maybe 2, and it was their names, part of their names and part of the town that they were from, something along those lines. Yeah. And they were tuning Mercedes-Benz, and it's the same concept, right? Take the biggest engine and put it in a smaller car. And that's, and I think they started out just doing like simple things. But, when I would read this stuff about like AMG, I remember, this is pre-merger AMG. This is what it's known in the circles as these days. Pre-merger AMG, they were doing things like, of course, they did like the visual things. They put the cool monoblock wheels and the little side skirts and the spoilers. But they also were, you know, putting in their own 4-valve heads and in increasing the size of the block and increasing the displacement and, you know, putting in beefier transmission and beefier internals. You know, that's not tuning, that's building, you know. And it started off with, you know, 2 guys in, you know, probably in a garage, in a workshop, in a warehouse, a hangar or something like that. And the idea that you get so good at something that the parent company is like, what are you doing over there?
Right.
You know, and it's just like, I'll take big bank, take little bank, you know, but also this was probably started really my obsession with 4-door cars, because a few episodes back, we talked about the world's fastest cars that were in 1987. And one of those cars in there was the AMG Hammer. So I thought to myself that I really like the AMG pre-merger as my European tuner, because they made some really, really cool cars. As you can see here, this is a Hammer. And on top of that, the name Hammer, I mean, come on. It's just, I'm all about a good, cool name for a car, and Hammer fits the bill. I mean, hey, to a hammer, everything's a nail. You know what I'm saying? And this, with a name like AMG Hammer, you had to back that up. You couldn't be an AMG Hammer and then you're really hitting like a eyeglass screwdriver, right? You had to be fast, okay? And the fact that this car outran, I think it was faster than the Lamborghini and one of the Ferraris, I think, 1 or 2 of the Ferraris that were there, or maybe they just had the GTO. Oh, they had the GTO and the Testarossa, and it was right there with them, right? And it's got a bigger profile. But it says AMG was mainly staffed by ex-Mercedes engineers, were able to build the cars of their dreams without interference from Mercedes management, which meant that no idea was too ludicrous. This is kind of like us guys, right? You know, we're like, right. You know, I want to throw double bird salute right now, but I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to know how to edit that out. But, you know, to our jobs and be like, hey, you know, we're going to be YouTubers, you know. So, you know, just the idea that you're really taking your, you know, somebody at, you know, between the group of these guys were just like, we should take, you know, they probably went to Mercedes, like, yo, we should take that big V8 right out of the, you know, what was the 420 SEL, the biggest one that they had, the big, I think it was a 6.9 liter V8 or something like that, and put it in this new, I'll have to look it up, but this chassis right here, you know, put it, and they were like, no, that's going to be, you know, nobody's going to want to buy that. That's going to be too much money. And they were like, dude, let's get some pizza and some beer and go over to the shop and grab an engine and throw it in there. But, you know, that's the concept behind this stuff. 6-liter V8. Yeah. But yeah, and then you can see here what they did with the 2-door, which is, you know, just as amazing. This is very rad. You know, it's the multi-piece wheels staggered in the back. It's, you know, the rear spoiler, how it just comes up off the back like that. It's beautiful. I've always wanted one of these. I really, really always wanted one of these. I think they are so cool. The seats, everything about them, man. Look at that.
The seats.
Yeah, look at that. It's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, that's my pick there for my European tuner. Adam, did I break the rules or am I good?
No, you didn't break the rules. I mean, I'm waiting for a flag come in from the other sideline. But I appreciate the Hammer, and I believe that Brooklyn and I saw one in LA at that place. You remember what it was called? What was it called?
Period correct.
Period correct. Thank you.
Period correct.
Yes, and I believe it was white. It was white, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
They're beautiful cars.
I think the AMG cars, unfortunately, like you said, pre-merger is probably best, but because it was more pure. But post-merger, I mean, they'll put an AMG badge on just about anything. But I don't want to get off on a tangent. But these cars are great, and I think the spirit of just a couple guys in a garage, you know, seeing what they can do with Mercedes Benz is really a good tradition.
Just like a car we spoke about in a previous episode, the Roof CTR, colloquially known as the Yellowbird. The Roof, Alois Roof did not name his car the Yellowbird. The journalist named it the Yellowbird. It's the same thing with AMG's Hammer. They never named the car the Hammer, but journalists called the car the Hammer. The streets called the car the Hammer. So an AMG Hammer is legendary, right? It's just like every good nickname, if you've got a cool nickname, it's what people call you, So yeah, those cars are chef's kiss.
Right on. Appreciate it. All right. Looks like I'm cleaning up. We might be able to go home early tonight, boys. All right. Check it out. So for my last one, I'm going to show you guys something, and this one's a little bit of a cheat. The reason why I keep asking is I'm pushing Adam's limits of what's an actual tuner here. So I'm gonna see when he finally snaps on me. But the Nissan Skyline has long been, moving over to the Far East, with Japan, and the Nissan Skyline has, let's just be frank, it's probably the greatest sports car that has come out of the Far East, since the 2000 GT, if not of all time. And it's, you talk about nicknames, it's nicknamed Godzilla, rightly so, because that car is a beast. Now, how do you improve on that? Well, you step to Nissan's own in-house tuner, which is Nismo, right? Nissan Motorsports. A little bit of a gray area because that's technically not a tuner, but let me digress on that, okay? With that, Nissan also had another tuner that was in-house, but they just kind of did things independently, called Autech, right? Now, I am combining these two, and I'm going to tell you why, because they actually combined here recently. Autech and Nismo are now one, right? And, it's kind of skirting on the lines of what is a true tuner. I could have went with the Mines, and I could have went with, there's a ton of them out there, Top Secret and all of that stuff. But I just love Nissan Skyline so much. And Autech did a very special Nissan Skyline with the four-door Nissan Skyline GTR, which is right here. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So this is.
How do you spell Autech? The
Autech is spelled Autech, AUTECH. Okay.
Okay, I've heard of them, but they're in-house to Nissan?
They are in-house to Nissan. Yep. Is a division.
Like they were outside and Nissan bought them?
I'm not sure. It's a subsidiary company of Nissan. So, and then in 2022, they merged with Nismo. Okay. So, and they've done a bunch of different cars. Autech did. They've done, they're all Nissans, but they did a lot of different cars. Now, you couldn't specifically, my assumption is that you couldn't bring your Skyline there and say, hey, I wanted it. And maybe you could. I'm not 100% sure, but I just know that they made this car not that one. They made this car right here, the four-door version of the Nismo 400R. So the Nismo 400R, that was made by Nismo, right? And it was basically the manufacturer themselves, Nissan's Motorsport Tuning, throwing everything. Those are Nismo wheels, intercooler, body kit, the whole nut, wing. It's everything for that era and that period. That was the coolest Nissan Skyline that you could buy. There's other manufacturer or aftermarket tuners that put together more higher horsepower cars, but there's just something about a manufacturer themselves dipping their toes into making their own car even better that I think is just really cool. And they built it the way that a lot of the other tuners were building their cars, right? But it all looked factory fresh, right? It looked factory spec. The nice subtle pinstripe, the little speed stripe right there on the side. They put the word 400R in there as an indication of the power. And you got to remember, this is back when there was a gentleman's agreement to keep the horsepower only at 276 for the Japanese cars. So the fact that they, board stroked it, and these cars are very, very valuable today, very, very valuable. And and then Autech went and they took. You couldn't really get a 4-door Skyline GTR. You can get a 4-door Skyline, but they did not make it in the GTR. So Autech had to take bits from the 400R, and they had to take a regular Nissan Skyline 4-door and turn it into a GTR 400R, which is just cool. And then the signature yellow paint, you can't beat that. This one right here is for sale. This is a 2-door 400R. And it's for sale for $85,000, which I think is an absolute deal.
Worth it.
Yeah, that's a banging deal right there. I don't flick to these pictures too much because, like I said, my internet is choppy at best. But arch fender flares, wing, it's just everything. Big old stinking exhaust, Brembo brakes, Nismo wheels. Those are the LMGT1s, if I'm not mistaken. Badass wheels. I remember those wheels when they came out. Very, very, very cool. Look how wide that is. Oh yeah, man, so good. Beefy.
And these are all-wheel drive as well, right?
Oh yeah. Those are all-wheel drive. Hikes. Well, most of them eliminate the hikes. They take out the 4-wheel steering. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I love me a good Nissan Skyline R33, one of my favorite cars of all time.
I'll allow it. It's
barely.
It's a great pick, and it really illustrates how sometimes the bean counters at a major manufacturer can't come up with the GTR and a 4-door, but a couple motivated individuals, a small company with nothing to lose, they're like, what if we had a 400R with 4 doors, a dream car.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. Kidding. All right, Brooklyn, you're up. You ready?
Oh, for sure. I'm going to hit you guys today with the ABCs. First tuner is Alpina. Alpina was founded in 1965. And a gentleman whose name I don't want to butcher, but Burkhard Siepen. He started a little company, and he would tune BMW 2002s and BMW E3 sedans and E9s. He would just tune all these BMWs, and he would race them, and other people would race them, and eventually he became a manufacturer because he would just take a body in white. We always like to talk about the body in white. It would just take basically a shell, a basic BMW from BMW, and they would tune it. And they still do that to this day, right? They've become much, much more of a luxury, brand now. But their thing was to tune, to hot rod BMWs, to make them faster, lower, handle better, make it different. So if everybody, if you were a young urban professional and all of your friends had BMWs, you had an Alpina, they became a manufacturer. So it's not a BMW anymore when you see an Alpina. It is an Alpina. The E36 Alpina is what I focused on here. There were many versions of the E36 version of Alpine. But what's very interesting is they ended up putting a 4.6 liter V8 into an E36. Besides the race, this one is an inline 6 version, but besides the race car, that was an E46 that had a V8 later. No, and even the E46 had no production V8s. There was never an E36 or E46 production V8. That came with the E90 body style. So this is a car I found, I believe, on Cars and Bids.
Yep.
And it's just, you can tell, I doubt that those those mirrors.
I was looking at those side markers.
Those mirrors were definitely not on that car when it left the factory. But Alpina had these cars, and those iconic Alpina wheels. They call those the soft lines. I have a set of those. Love them. Never put them on a car, and I've had them for years. You can see the upgraded interior here with the iconic, green and blue Alpina stripes. Alpina always breathed great life into cars. I mean, I'd love to have an Alpina car or 5. Our friend Anita Patton has a blue E34. Oh, this is an E34 as well. E34 Alpina bi-turbo. That car has twin turbos. What engine is in the bi-turbo?
I think it's an M30.
It's like an M30 B35 or something, or some bored out version of that. Yeah. And on top of that, it's twin turbos, and was the fastest sedan in the world. The advertisements had a picture of it with a Concorde. Anyway, Alpina is amazing, an amazing company. They're still around. They're still doing great things. I really love the Alpina cars, so I chose an Alpina E36 for our juncture today. And that concludes the A. I mean, we could do a whole episode on Alpina, but that is the A in my ABC. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I like Alpina. I think that we're having so far there's a common theme that we're not straying too wildly away from the OEM manufacturer, but for good reason. I don't think you could take your E36. You probably could, and in Germany, to Alpina and say, hey, make my regular E36 into an Alpina. I'm sure, listen, money talk, bullshit walk, right? So I'm sure you could, but they probably just go buy one. But
or you could buy. Yeah, I had a catalog. You could buy all, like Denon, another American tuner. I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's feet, but you could either send your car to Denon, buy a car from Denon, or order everything from Denon and put it on yourself. Yeah, and it would still be official. Alpina, you could order a lot of their parts, but generally you would get a factory made Alpina car. And there was a dealership called Cinter in the United Kingdom, and you could get a genuine Alpina car, but that was built in Britain. Fun fact. Adam.
Yeah, the Alpinas are obviously and a very much approved alternative to the BMW badge. As you said, they've become their own manufacturer. I don't believe they have their own brick and mortar dealerships, but I have seen them in BMW dealerships being sold, B7s
right.
And stuff like that.
They're owned by BMW now, though.
No.
I don't know.
No, they're not. That's false.
I don't think they are either. I think they're their own manufacturer.
That's just anyway. AMG sold out like that. Alpina has not.
One of the points I'm going to make is that Alpina is still recognized as a great, as having great tuner parts. You pointed out the soft line wheels, and they have really appreciated in value a lot. And I don't think it's necessarily because they are rare per se, but I think that they are less common than other wheels like BMW wheels or whatever, and they're a great design, and they hold up well, and they just seem to keep their value. So Alpina is definitely on the approved list for sure.
I mentioned Cinter, the authorized folks that were able to put together. They got packages and they put together Alpinas, and it was still an official Alpina when they put it together. I was just wondering if you guys knew about that. Only happened there. You couldn't do that in America or anywhere else.
Yeah, that must have been import and export controls for England, of course.
Yeah, it was some kind of deal. It was a direct deal with Alpina.
I mean, especially considering the right-hand drive, consideration.
Right. Great point. So B is for, if we're ready, B is for Blitz.
Yeah.
There's a big tuner called June, and June was, because I was doing my ABC thing, June was participated in this too, but We're going to call it the Blitz 300ZX, the legend of the world's fastest Nissan 300ZX. Here's the crazy thing about this car. This car broke a land speed record in the year of our Lord, 1991, right? A special category, tuned car record with a combustion engine. And that record has never been broken. It didn't take 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's never been broken. 1991, over 30 years ago. This record has never been broken to this day. That car went 262 miles per hour. And for the category it was running in, it had like 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
reading this, and it's this is pretty crazy. They used what was cool. They used the 2+2 because they had a longer wheelbase for added stability. That's pretty cool.
And that's also fascinating because I remember even back in the day, like you could tell the difference when you looked at a 2+2, and some people didn't want to buy them. It's not like you're fitting, you're not fitting a baby seat or anything back there anyway. But yeah, that car was super cool, super fast. It still exists. I think it got auctioned off or something a couple years ago. But this tuner, like the 90s was a special time, I believe, because people really said, well, why can't I? Right. Japan is really fascinating. I haven't been yet. I can't wait to go. But Japan is really fascinating. It's probably in a way like Southern California fascinates us, right? There are theoretically all these regulations, but Wolf and I went to Southern California, and it was like all of these super heavily modified BMWs, Porsches, Audis, just everything, right? And we're like, how, if they have all these rules, how are these people, they're just driving them on the street, nobody's bothering them, the police aren't pulling them over like they would in like Ocean City, Maryland. Yeah, we're gonna have to watch some YouTube videos because this, it looks like a regular, well, not the front, but it generally looks like it looks like a tuner 300ZX, but 262 horsepower is, not horsepower, that's regular. 262 miles per hour is crazy. You can't make something light enough to go 262 miles per hour without gobs and gobs and gobs of horsepower.
Right.
So that let's wrap that. You guys tell me what you think about this Nissan.
Adam, does this qualify?
Yeah, of course. Complete freak show. I love it. It's the right kind of crazy, and it's obviously they had a mission. Taking it to Bonneville. Building that car in Japan, taking it to Bonneville. There is only one reason to do so. Right. And I will tell you from my own personal jaunt to the Salt, not to do a speed run or anything like that, but it is a very special place, and it's got a magnetism for car guys that is unmistakable. So the fact that they built that car with a special purpose and accomplished their mission, and apparently still hold that record, I'm really interested in what the detail is on that, but it's captivating, and it definitely qualifies.
Yeah, I'm reading the other link that Brooklyn sent me. It says the June Blitz Bonneville. Did you say this already, Brooklyn? Holds the EBMS class land speed record of 260 miles an hour, and it was like you said, a partnership between June and Blitz. Which June, they had that's a very killer Supra. Back in the day, I remember early YouTube videos about it. It wasn't even YouTube. It was just on the internet back then. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And like you said, that it's got the BBS LMs on there, and the BBS LMs, and it's Fire Cell Red, and those Z32 300ZXs were. I used to be in love with those cars. I thought they were the coolest thing in the world. But yeah, I like it. I was back when
the front turbo slats, so you could know it was a turbo.
Slats,
6 little slats on each side, let you know it was a turbo. Okay, so now we're at C. C is Callaway. the Callaway Supernatural. It was a ZR1 that they called a CR1. They called the first ones CR1s, CR1 Supernaturals, and then they dropped the CR1 and just called them Supernaturals. The Supernatural was a 475 horsepower, and I think it went up from there. Twin turbo Callaway Corvette. Reeves Callaway, which until just now when I Googled it, I thought he was still around. RIP to Reeves Callaway, the founder of Callaway Cars. I didn't realize that he died in 2023. He made a bunch of my favorite cars when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. A true enthusiast, you know, rest in peace to Reeves Callaway. His cars were amazing, tire shredding machines, bespoke. You know, you bought a brand new Corvette, which was expensive, and then you gave him almost as much money as, and maybe even more than you paid for the Corvette in the first place. And then he made a rip snorting, you know, undeniable, powerful machine. And to even tune a Corvette ZR1 in those days is just madness. I don't know if you have the photo of the roll bar. Like they had a tan leather wrapped roll bar in one of the photos, because everything was rewrapped in leather. But yeah, the Callaway Corvettes had special wheels, they had big turbo engines, they had upgraded handling, upgraded brakes, just upgraded everything. They had wild body kits. You know, the ZR1 was already a rough, tough, shocking looking car, but Callaway had, you know, just vents and whatnot. As you can see, you can see through the back glass, it has this like leather roll bar back there. But yeah, these ABC, Alpina, you know, Blitz and Callaway, this is just like, and I stuck to the 90s because it was just like peak 90s, you know, wretched excess. You know, guys our age keep making cars like this more expensive because we're all like, you know, getting to a place in life where like, I want it. I want it. I saw it in a magazine in 1995 and I want it, or whatever. Being able to look this stuff up and see it. And it's what we always talked about, Adam and Dre. It's like, oh, I'm reliving my childhood. You know, these were the posters on my walls. This is like, I would just read, you know, cover to cover. A Callaway Corvette is on the magazine cover. Forget about it. You know, like these are such good memories. This is so much enjoyment, right? I imagine that this is what it's like when someone who won a few Super Bowls becomes a commentator and they're just excitedly breaking down, you know, the tackle or the interception or the Hail Mary or whatever.
Reeves Callaway needs no introduction. He did some other stuff too, and some racing stuff, if I'm not mistaken. But he's obviously known most widely for the C4.
He did an Alfa Romeo.
Did he? Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. He's most widely known for the CR. You know, if you go to any of the Radwood events, you'll see some of his work there. There's a couple Corvettes that show up that, you know, it always pops up on the Radwood page. But same thing. Yeah, I thought Callaway was bonkers for how he would take, you know, he would just take a regular, you know, not a regular, but a ZR1, which when it came out, I thought that was, you know, the pinnacle, the highest. I'm like, all right, this is, you know, this is the bee's knees. Like, there's nothing that's going to top this. And then he would take it in, you know, and make it even wilder. And he made it look really nice too, right? Yeah, he had the Brembos on there. He had, I think there were some OZ Ultras wheels on there. You know, it was really, really nice. So he did a good job. Adam qualifies. Does he live or does he die?
Yeah, of course it qualifies. And I think you guys brought up some of the great parts about Callaway and how they have been a tuner for lots of different cars. You mentioned Alfa Romeo. There's actually some older BMWs turbo kits that are available that they supplied as well. And like Dre mentioned, the vintage Brembos underneath those wheels. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
It just goes to show, you know, like some of the ingredients may stay the same, but you know, obviously the ZR1, there's only just a few ways that you can turn that up to 11 or 12 or 15 for that matter.
Right.
And clearly these guys had a vision and they made it happen. So it's definitely a cool car that I did not actually, I have not seen that one before. I've seen Callaways, of course, but I had not seen that C4 Callaway before. So that was pretty neat. Thank you.
That's what we do here. We educate the masses, and sometimes we educate ourselves, so it works out great. Now for the man of the hour, the man with the absolute plan. Adam, where was your head at with this?
Game starting now.
Have fun in the basement. Anyway, yeah, so I really enjoyed this. I really wanted to pick some stuff that was outside the box and kind of spoke to me. And I really believe that I picked some pretty good ones. And I will start with the European German tuner. And I wanted to have a little bit of a preamble before I started that.
Yes, preamble. Yes.
Yes, we love preambles. So, you know, the Germans, specifically the BMWs, you know, we can get any number of tuner wheels, right? Or tuner items. But I'll stick to the wheels for this explanation. So if you had an outstanding wheel for it, you could have tuner wheels like Alpina, BBS, Sentra, Mille Miglia, Gotti, Hartka, Kellner, Ronald, Schnitzer, and even Zender. Okay, A to Z, you could go in wheels. All of that being said, these are great additions to any car, right? You don't necessarily have to have a BBS themed BMW to enjoy BBS wheels on a BMW. So that's sort of the direction I went. Is I don't know, maybe it's getting a little bit tired, but E28 can be the answer to just about any car or any car question. And so I picked the Schultz tuning E28 Combi.
Wow.
Okay, or E28 Touring. And they didn't make very many of these. Yeah, they didn't make very many of these. All right. And I've actually only seen one in person, and it was actually for sale many, many years ago. And I think it was for sale for like $4,000. I wish I would have bought it, obviously.
Was it this particular one?
I don't believe it was this one. No. So very special car.
God bless.
There's a couple guys kind of making them out there. And this guy Schultz, he was just a tinkerer in his own garage. He started out with some Mercedes stuff, and then he opens Schultz Tuning. BMW hit him up and said, "Hey, how would you like to do a touring?" And so he did some. And
really?
BMW gave him those cars?
Yeah, I think that's what the article said. I sent you another article, but it was in another language. The information on this is like so esoteric. It's so far out there that it's hard to know what is true. But that other link I sent you was sort of like an explanation of where he came from, what he did. And I believe he got BMW's blessing to do these. It's a great car. Even all busted, I think it can be brought back. And I think what is really neat about this car is that, if I remember correctly, it uses a Mercedes hatch.
Yep, it sure does.
So
from a 300E, I think.
Something like that, yeah. So just like a really neat parts bin special. And once again, answering a question that nobody really asked, and obviously it's a great effect here. So that is my European or German tuning special, a very small sample, maybe I would say less than a dozen in the entire world, and definitely worthy of, you know, maybe seeking as my own project someday.
Right on. Yeah, that's I didn't realize, I knew that Schultz, but I didn't realize the tie-in there with, you know, it being like produce. I do know, and it's not the 300E, it was the it's the one right before that. I'm not my Mercedes knees is not that good. God, was it the 190? Can't remember. 280. Maybe it was a 280. And they had the wagon. It was the hatch off of that.
I love it. I love a good touring, obviously. I love a good BMW touring. For those non BMW folks, BMW calls their wagons, their station wagons, they call them touring. Mercedes calls their station wagons the Estate, and Audi calls their station wagon the Avant. America We call station wagons station wagons. I'm really fascinated to see that they had BMW's blessing, yet BMW never actually. But this is what we talk about when we talk about tuners, right? Tuners do things in a niche market that the manufacturers don't do. Just like some BMW engineers made the E30 touring, and then BMW was like, "Oh, okay, that came out nice. We're going to do that for real," and they did. But they did credit that gentleman, and hopefully, paid him.
So let's move on to America, and I want to highlight a tuner that is not so well known for Ford. I'd say it would be like a Chevy equivalent of the Shelby and Ford relationship. A gentleman called Yenko, and in particular, I picked the Yenko Corvair, which was the Stinger.
Wow.
And I don't know. I've always liked the Corvair. I don't know why, but they're a great shape, and I really enjoy them a lot. And these Stingers were set up for road racing, so they were super neat. And they aren't not very many of them either, so it's sort of hard to find information on them, but. They do sell on Bring a Trailer, and Bring a Trailer has a couple articles on them. Wow. So that kind of points out, kind of the color scheme and what they look like. I think that number 95 one in the middle there, I think that one has a pretty good story with it. Yeah, that one.
46?
No, yeah, I'm sorry. COPO number 5. COPO number 95.
Yeah, okay.
So it was COPO and Yenko?
So if you'll look at this one, it's what's hilarious is that this one was on sale in I don't remember what year this was, but it was for sale for $125,000, and this is like an active car. Yeah, 2014, $125,000. I'm not sure if they got that, but these pictures kind of show that it was set up for road racing, and a very clean. Body in white, as we always talk about, the custom plate, and just set up.
Now, Adam, you're burying the lead here. Corvairs are rear engine like a 911, and they're air cooled. Right. So the engine hangs out, is jutted out in the rear here, kind of like a Tucker, and obviously like a Beetle or a Porsche. But yeah, the engine is right there in the back, so it gives it a kind of a weird shape, but it's still very cool because it's unassuming. It looks like the engine's in the front, and the fact that they turned it into a racer, which nobody scoffs at a 911 being a SCCA racer, but a Corvair is just on another level. I would love to see this thing in action.
That's actually a great point, because you can actually find these on YouTube, and I was going to mention that earlier with the touring as well. There's a couple videos on YouTube of each of these cars, and just great extra footage if you want to find it.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of power was the Yenko Corvair putting down?
I think it was less than 200 horsepower.
Yeah, 190. 225 pound-feet of torque. But Corvairs are very light, so I'm sure that thing moved.
Yeah, and so they did a couple extra things to these.
Well, a regular Corvair only made 98 horsepower, so yeah, I'd say they doubled the horsepower. They did something.
Now, you guys will have to remind me, but wasn't there a book written about the Corvair that was like unsafe at any speed?
You're talking about Ralph Nader?
Yes,
Ralph
that guy.
Nader threw the Corvair under the bus. Yes,
right. Maybe that's why. I mean, maybe it's kind of like the Streisand effect, and it kind of like caused me to, research these a little bit more. But I really enjoy these cars a lot, and I think they have been maligned, and I really think that they're worthy of study and worthy of appreciation.
I agree.
Yenko. I did not know Yenko dipped their toes into Corvairs. They should have stuck the damn Camaros. But hey, listen, it's
no, that's actually good. I love when a tuner does the unexpected, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Learning has occurred. Learning has occurred. I never knew about this. Never knew about
I mean,
this.
when you were mentioning Shelby earlier, I was thinking about the Omni or whatever it was. The Shelby Omni, was it?
yeah, the
Yeah,
Dodge, the Dodge,
GLH,
Omni.
GLHS. Yeah,
And I'm like, who asked for that? Nobody.
nobody.
But it
Yeah.
was awesome.
They're
Yeah,
like, Shelby, we can send you about 1,500 of them if you want for R&D, you know.
right.
Nice. Grant steering wheel in there. Cool. I like it. That's yeah, I
That's
like that.
unexpected.
That was left field.
All right. So moving on to Japan, I wanted to talk about, you know, obviously the car on my t-shirt, the Top Secret Garage. And I sent Dre a couple links for a specific car. And I just wanted to, it's from the Speed Hunters website. And I just wanted to point out that, you know, the photography on this website, if I can ever find a car on this website, I always go here first. Because the photography on this website, even though this story is set in this guy's garage, he would not pull it out. And so, you know, within the confines of this garage, the guy had to photograph it. And he just did a great job and pointed out some of the great features of this Supra.
He wouldn't pull the car out of the garage.
I think it had just been bought.
Roll it out for a Speed Hunters article.
I mean, look at it. You're gonna be on, you know, they're gonna find you from space immediately if you pull this out of the garage.
Wow.
So this is a twin turbo V12, you know, a car after my own heart, and just terrific engineering, ingenuity. You know, I love the different headlights on the car. You know, that I wish that would have shown up on this shirt. You know, this has the regular the regular Mark IV Supra. But that's great. Top Secret will challenge to the world. You know, you got your English there. And that's just terrific.
Yeah, that was probably in Japanese and they translated it to English, and that's what it, you know, you always see like that kind of weird translation when they're writing stuff.
Yeah, but this guy Nagata, he was the head of the Top Secret Garage, and they did all kinds of cars. You know, you could spend a whole episode just talking about all the cars that they did. They did Skylines and all kinds of cool stuff like that. But this car in particular really stood out to me. And you can pull up the other link as well. I think has some other pictures. Maybe.
Is Nagata still around?
You know, I don't know. I have to assume he is. But I think what really spoke to me about this is that, you know, this is a tuner much in the same vein as like the RWB guy.
Yeah.
But obviously below the radar. You know, he doesn't it's not a moving art piece, or it's not a moving art exhibition, you know, that he's making.
These cars can get out there and cook.
Right. And
Nagata's nickname is Smokey.
Yes, that's it. So I don't know, just a great car. Top Secret, you know, definitely speaks to my own sensibilities, and you know, just super great stuff. A great platform, a great combination, and just a great car, and you know, great vision.
Oh, Smokey Nagata is only 61 years old.
60s, okay. Yeah.
He's Japanese, so you know he smokes, but he's still gonna live 100 to be 100.
We'll see about that. I don't know. They choke down them heaters like it's going out of style. So, but hey, listen, Top Secret. I mean, you know, this is the true essence of when you say tuner, especially in the Super Street era, which was, I would say, the mid 90s up until it really I think it kind of fell off.
Let me stop you right there. We have to do a Super Street era episode. Well, this already is, but we got to do a Super Street episode and a Radwood episode. But carry on, Dr. Dre.
Yeah, the Super Street era was very special, you know, but
Nopi Nationals.
Yeah, Nopi Nats. But cars like this, you know, Japan was doing it big. Like Japan was, you know, when you talk about the Mark IV Toyota Supra,
there's a Blitz sticker on it.
Yeah, when you say they didn't want to pull it out the garage, there was such fierce competition in Japan with tuners.
Espionage.
Everybody was tuning FDs. They were tuning Sky R33s, R34s, R32s. R32s are, you know, big. And I'm not saying things that nobody know, but the Mark IV Supra, it was just a absolute. And this is again going back how Nissan, Nismo, Autech, TRD, Toms, all of these, you know, like you were saying, it's like, you know, the stuffy suits aren't gonna be like, oh, put a 60 millimeter turbo, single turbo on a car that we just spent all this money putting a sequential twin turbo system. Right. But if you have like this skunk works here, you guys have a separate budget, you know, I'll be by after 5 o'clock to see what you guys got going on with a beer in my hand, you know. But it was such fierce competition. And I remember, I don't know, one of you two guys, somebody's like, I never realized that Top Secret was the name of the tuning company. I always thought it was just a Top Secret Supra but it was kind of a play on words where whatever modifications they did, I remember even watching some option videos where they would not reveal the suspension setup or the spring rate that they were using. You know, and they would go to Tsuba and they would race around Tsuba and have the Drift King go. It was just golden era of tuning. But that was, you know, that was true tuning. You know, the Alpinas and the, you know, those guys, you know, that was tuning as well. But these guys were really taking factory Supras, Skylines, Subarus, Evos, and just, if it wasn't performance related, that stuff was not going on the car, you know. So it really drove a whole industry. And this is you know, one of the pinnacle cars of that time.
They wanted to go fast. They would be, you know, I remember June. There was something like Luck.
Yeah.
There was like June, Luck. Those, you'd have these Supras, yellow or bright green or gold like this one, and they would have 900 horsepower, 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, and you're like, the people wrapping themselves around poles with the 320 horsepower the Supra comes with,
right?
In the turbo version, like, what are we doing?
1,000 horsepower now is nothing. You can get that at a dealership practically, but which is shocking. I mean, it's amazing. But in the 90s, 1,000 horsepower was truly hypercar territory.
Absolutely.
And I don't remember how much horsepower the roof had, the CTR had, but it also sort of calls to mind, you know, the efficiency. You know, you didn't have to have 1,000 horsepower
if you were light enough,
to do these big things.
Well, roof was rated at 350, but people believe it had 500, kind of stuff like that.
Right. But I mean, that just proves my point. You know, people just bring all kinds of horsepower to the table now and say, well, that'll just make up the difference. Yeah. But when you truly build a car, you know, with all considerations and for a purpose, you know, you can truly be more efficient. You know, you can make a better car and still attain those goals.
Right on, man.
463 is what the roof. People got 500 on the dyno.
Yeah, it was underrated. You know,
it was underrated. But the new one, the brand new roof CTR is 700 horsepower. Under promise, over deliver, like we do here at S38 Fire Team.
That was great. I really like those. That is what we call in the industry a deep dive into tuners, from Shelby to Callaway to AMG, Schultz. Okay, not many people would have that at the tip of their tongue. Blitz, June. These are people that, you know, what we have in common. And if you're listening to this, you probably have this in common too, is that you just have that bug. You have that drive, that motor, no pun intended, where you know, just taking something for face value is not enough. You really have to tinker with it and make it better and make it more fun. And then you create things like a touring E28, or you create things like a twin turbo C4 Corvette, or you create things like a really posh E36 that looks every bit as, you know, every bit as much as it probably cost for you to purchase it. So tuner scale is from mile to mile, from mundane to just a couple pieces here and there to here, give me your British sports car and let me stuff a big brand new Ford V8 into it. And, you know, not that we're strapping stage 3 rockets to our dailies in the garage right now, but in the same vein, we like to do things to make our cars better than they came from the factory. Adam and Brooklyn, you guys are, you know, you in agreement with there?
V12 Turbo Supra, V12 Twin Turbo Supra, a car that came with 6 cylinders, doubling the cylinders and throwing a couple turbos up.
Yeah, Adam,
the
that's a dangerous. I'm gonna tell you, the only thing you don't want to see is Adam rubbing his beard, because we all know what comes next, right?
It's like the Birdman
like,
hand rub.
Yeah, Dre, you need to find me some more wheels here, you know. So
Right.
But good stuff, gents. I love this episode. I like when we get into the technical details and we really have to do our research to talk about things intelligently. And, you know, I learned a lot about Shelby and the you know, even the tuners you guys presented. So I really appreciate that. Final thoughts, Brooklyn.
What a time to be alive, to experience this as very, very young men, and to now go back and see all of these cars and to see their memories are still alive. And in some cases, being able to purchase them or purchase parts from them or build our own versions, you know, because we've all got project cars going individually and together. It's great to see and live this as an automotive enthusiast. You know, sometimes life can be doom and gloom for people, but this is literally and figuratively our wheelhouse. This is what we do best. This is what we love. This is what brings us joy. And this episode is par for the course.
Adam, follow up to that.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us sort of have this vision or have a brand in mind, our own personal brand, and would love to be known in you know, would love to be part of these conversations. You know, I would love to have a Slick Top City E24 modded out to the, you know, to the hilt, you know, splayed across some magazine covers, or you know, just generally appreciated at a car meet. And I know you guys would do the same with your own personal brand if you chose to go that way. The people that we discussed today, they brought that dream alive. Whether in a small garage with, you know, a couple of guys at the, you know, after hours in the factory, or, you know, however they did it, you know, they made their dreams come alive and have, you know, really sparked enthusiasm in, you know, generations of car enthusiasts. So thank you.
Absolutely. So listen, this is S38 Fire Team. We are going to ask, if you made it this far, please give us a like, follow, share this video, comment, drop down in the comments, and you know, that way you can stay hooked and stay in tune to what we got coming up. This is S38 Fire Team. I'm Dre Zoom, Brooklyn Taylor, Adam the Wolf, Slick Top City Armor. We will catch you guys on the flip. S38 Fire Team out.